Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to your daily Brighton podcast. We're brought to you by GSPN, and I'm finally arrived. I'm on the scene. I feel like Mika Richards. I've burst onto the scene. I've returned. I've been away. I haven't been away anywhere, to be honest. I've been working, but I've been away. And so I'm Joe, and I am joined by the established team player right here.
Exactly.
Jamie, how are you?
I'm not too bad. I am not on hosting duties. I have passed over the reins to the much better Joe Richardson over there.
You're making me blush, mate. You're making me blush. Maybe actually legit as well. It might just be a lie. But... So, the season is looming. It's right around the corner, the time that all football fans are literally clucking for, right? We are going to be speaking a little bit just about sort of what we want to expect, what we're going to be expecting from the season and sort of tactics-wise, and also looking ahead to the game against Everton at 3:00 on Saturday. And we're going to start off by talking a little bit about our new manager, a very young man, Fabian Hurzeler. So, Gera, what do you know about this young fellow?
Well, he is very young. I think 33 years old. He came from Bundesliga 2 team, St. Pauli. He won the league with St. Pauli. He's had an interesting career as a player. He played for Bayern Munich's youth team, I think, and then he's like a American/German. He was wanted to play, or America wanted him to play for their national ranks, but then he chose to play for Germany. Never really made it as a player. Was playing for, I think his last stop was for a Bundesliga 3 team, and he took on the role as a player manager. So he only wanted to do it when he was around 23. He realised he wasn't going to reach the top and wanted to be a player manager for this Bundesliga 3 team, and apparently went on to do great things there. And that's where he got his kind of coaching badges, and then got the move when he was 27. The old age of 27.
Yeah, I know, right? I feel like he because from what I know, he is. I can't remember. I feel like he's born in America, but he didn't live there for very long. I don't think he was there for long at all. So that would probably explain the nationality sort of thing. He to be so young and to just for context for the people listening and obviously the viewers as well, Bundesliga 3 is not professional football; it's semi-professional football. Like obviously you'd count. So what would that be in England? League 1.
Yeah.
So League 1 you'd count as professional football, but in Germany it's not. So I think that I think his career's maybe benefited a bit from maybe wanting to step away so early and then obviously make this sort of meteoric rise to where he is now, to the best league in the world at 33. I mean, he's only, 7 years older than us?
Yeah.
Which is mental. It's actually a mental thing to say. It's crazy.
Don't say that. You're actually making us look like we're losers doing nothing.
We're literally losers to the podcast.
Adoring this guy.
Yeah. To be fair, it's a pretty big thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a pretty amazing feat, obviously. So, obviously you've given an amazing little backstory on him there. So in terms of the actual footy, the nitty gritty, what are we thinking? What have you picked up on?
Well, for St. Pauli, he played with a 3. This is where it's going to be quite interesting, I think. It's going to, from what we've seen in pre-season, it doesn't look like he's going to revert to what he did at St. Pauli. So at St. Pauli, he had a 3-4-3 formation. He stuck with it. And just in pre-season games against Villarreal, against QPR, he's gone with a 4-1-4-1 formation. But I think some of the ideals will remain. I think we can expect to be a possession-based team.
Mhm.
His St. Pauli team last season dominated the ball. They had the most possession in the league. I think they also pressed high and won the ball back very high. But they like to build up from the back. It's kind of this new term as well. You hear all these analysts say it on YouTube and
Yeah.
things like that. It's this positionless football where
Mm.
he kind of just basically he trusts his players and lets them do kind of whatever they want to some
Yeah.
extent. There was points as well when you see it, or when you look back at the St. Pauli games, where he just abandons the midfield. Like the third centre back pushed up into the midfield, and that's how they would play out from the back. And then the two centre mids would be basically cams or false nines. So that was an
Yeah.
interesting one. I don't think we will see that this season, perhaps, because I feel
No.
like if we see that this season, we could get exposed. But
Yeah.
I'm hopeful and optimistic of what I've seen. The beauty of having a young manager is the fact that he's bringing new ideas.
Yeah.
It's like a very new style of football rather than like a Roy Hodgson or
Sean
a
Dyche.
Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche again. One more time.
We're coming for you, Everton fans.
Oh, we actually, yeah. I know what I have so much. I have things to say about Sean Dyche.
Yeah, that's what I've got to say about him. I'm excited for the season. I think it's going to be high risk, high reward type of season.
100%. I would actually just like to quickly, say quickly. When it comes to tactics, you can just talk for an age. But where you mentioned about the formation change, so obviously he was the 3-4-3, and then I feel like that's a personnel thing, personally.
Yeah.
And it's this exact same situation with and you might think to yourself, oh, Joe, how can you say it's a personnel thing when he's got Premier League caliber players? But that's not what this is about, because what he's doing is if you ever have chats with your friends about football and if you bring up something like a 3-4-3 formation, people that know about football will always say, like, you need to have the right players for it. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Whereas if you are a Sean Dyche or someone who plays low block, you can sort of just get away with the personnel that you have. And even though the players that he had at St. Pauli probably aren't of the caliber of, I say probably, they're not of the caliber of Brighton players, you need to have the right profiles in each position to be able to do those things. For example, the centre-back pushing up into the midfield. It would take a really specific profile of player to be able to actually do that. And to do it, you also need to remember is that you need to match the caliber of the teams that you're playing. Brighton, if you put them into Bundesliga 2 last season, with the players they had, they'd obviously be able to do that. And it would work. But now you can't risk. So exactly, high risk, high reward. You can't risk doing it now and suffering, rather than obviously wait until you find the exact. That's why I think we haven't gone for a centre back, because it has to be the right one.
Yeah,
right back has to be the right one. To be fair, I think the links to Kadioglu makes perfect sense, because he can basically play everywhere. So he's comfortable in this fluid system of being able to play everywhere. Pascal Gross would have been amazing for that. I just wait. Give me a second about Pascal Gross. Right, I'm back. And I just think that what you're going to see is something that is going to take a bit of time. I know that we're going to give him time, because let's be honest, the last two managers have left on there by their own choice, not by choice of Tony Bloom or anything like that. So I think it's going to be really exciting going forward. And based on pre-season, there has been some defensive frailties, yes, but going forward, we've got that Brighton, that deadliness back, that big teams will come to the Amex and they'll be worried about how we can punish them.
100%.
Right. Anyway, we could talk about that for an age, right? That actually got quite passionate now, I'm not going to lie. in our next segment, we're going to talk about some strengths and weaknesses. So we're going to cut to a quick ad now, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about some strengths and weaknesses of the system. So yeah, we'll see you on the flip side.
Do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are already engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at the Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
And we are back, guys. So this segment, we are going to be talking about some strengths and some weaknesses. So I don't know where you want to start, Jimmy G. Where are we going to go? Do you want to go strengths first or want to go negatives first? Weaknesses?
Yeah, I think we'll go. We've touched on a lot of the positives, so I think we'll touch on a negative, and that is the St. Pauli didn't have a great defense last season, and that is something that Brighton have struggled with last season in particular. I think we kept clean sheets in perhaps 3 games.
I think 3. Yeah,
I think 3 games, which is quite. Well, not quite poor. That is very poor.
Yeah, it's all right.
And we conceded, I think, 62 goals last season, something crazy like that. So that's almost 2 a game. So yeah, it's not. I don't think he's gonna. I can only hope he's going to fix that. But I think he is going to be an attacking manager. A manager that's going to take risks and want to play out from the back, want to play his system. And I think that is going to come with some teething problems in terms of just getting players used to the system. Because there's probably going to be this positionless football. If he does start going with that, then I think it's going to be something that is going to be hard to adjust to or take some time to adjust to. That's my only concern, really. And then my concern with him or his age is that he doesn't have any experience at any top flight, which is a concern.
Yeah.
And then because he's 33, he's younger, or 32 maybe, he's younger than 4 of our players. So that is how will they adjust to him as well? How will the players take to him? It looks pre-season wise, I'm quite excited that it looks like they've taken to him like a duck to water, where he's blended them. His team talk that Brighton posted on Twitter, that looks promising as well, in terms of he looks like he's not going to take any crap, if we're allowed to say that. He looks like he's
get away with crap, mate.
You never know. Got to keep it PG.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like he's not going to take, because in the final our first pre-season game against Kashmir Antlers, we conceded a really lackluster goal to make it 5-1. And he was livid about that. He said, do not come off the boil. Keep pressing them. Keep working hard. Don't just think, right, it's 90th minute, let's just take it easy. So I think that's where he can earn some respect. And that's where I quite like him. But at the same time, the age and the experience is always going to be a concern.
Yeah, 100%. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to piggyback off what you've just said, basically, because a lot of it is similar, but maybe in a tiny, slightly different aspect. So for me personally, with the experience, my biggest issue is how he is going, because obviously, like, as much as we would love it, and you have that like slightly like delusional part in your brain where you're like, we're going to win every game, right? I think when it does get tough, when you do sort of get into those trenches in the middle of the season around Christmas time, where it's thick and fast, and especially if you're like in cup runs as well, you're playing like a ridiculous amount of games during Christmas time. If he gets into that string of bad results and teams have figured us out, as you would say, it's how he has a philosophy, an identity that's brilliant. That is what Man United fans have been calling for Ten Hag for ages. Chelsea now, they don't have an identity because they have 600 players or whatever. But like, what he has that, but we've spoke about it prior to the podcast starting that you need to be able to make slight tweaks to your game to be able to succeed. Klopp, Pep, Ange now, Arteta, they have a certain style of playing that they adjust based on opposition, based on personnel changes, based on that is what I want to see. And if he doesn't have that, then I think it could be an issue.
Yeah, that's
sorry.
something that De Zerbi was slated for as well. It was the fact that under him we didn't really have a plan B.
No.
But I mean, we mentioned it on the last pod. I think Rich mentioned it nicely, and it was a Europa League game against Marseille or it was one of the games where we went to a plan B, where we had so many injuries that we had to revert to a plan B, and he proved that he could kind of adjust to a plan B. And that is the question around Hurzeler is when the chips are down, do we have a plan B? Do we have something that we can revert back to? That is the thing. Do you think, a question for you, do you think if we do go on a really bad run, because the heights that we've been blessed with in the past with Potter and with De Zerbi, do you think if we go on a really bad run and we're, let's say, struggling midway through the season, do you think he could get sacked?
I don't think. I think essentially, regardless of this season, he should be allowed to have the season. It's so stupid. Do you look at me? Look at me in my face, right? This is for everyone. Look at me. Obviously, the listeners you can't, but do you want to be a Chelsea? Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like we can't have that constant revolving door just because we've not let a 32, 33-year-old manager not have the time that he needs. I've said to you guys before, in England, he's going to get he's been slated basically already before he's even walked in the door because of his age. He's going to get slated and he's going to have the tough times, like I said, like literally like 5 minutes ago. He's going to have those tough times, but you need to be able to ride it out. Show that you can do these things, and the people, us, the fans, will get behind you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And also the press, they will go the complete opposite way, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, he's the best thing since Sir Alex Ferguson." Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what he shouldn't get sacked. I couldn't see that happening. It has to be a long-term project.
Yeah, and I think that is what they're kind of banking on. The board are banking on with hiring a young manager. I think they're prepared to go on this journey with him and allow him to develop, allow him to have his time to implement his system. And I think, like you say, I think we just have to trust the process.
100%. One thing quickly I'd like to touch on. I'd like to see his personal growth as a manager in terms of being able. So where he's so young, I know that he has said that he'd sort of like to take that back step in terms of like managing the players off the pitch. And I like that idea because obviously you're going to be coming across, hopefully not, but you're going to be coming across some players who are like, well, I'm older than this guy, so like, why should I be doing that? So he wants to have that head coach role rather than your Klopps and your Sir Alex Ferguson, where Sir Alex Ferguson was basically like a mafioso. I don't know what he had going on, but he had like people spying on people's like family in the hospital and all that stuff. Myth. I don't know how he's done that, but like he's not going to be Lewis like Cole, and then he's like hugging him when he comes off. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to see how that actually develops as he gets older, because maybe it's something that will come with time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's enough about Hurzeler. We're going to get into the nitty gritty. In our next segment, we're going to talk about what we can expect to see in the season, and we're talking sort of tactics wise. We're not talking about just results because that's kind of boring. Because obviously we're just going to say we're going to win every game. But so after this ad break, we're going to talk about what to expect next, which sort of players will shine in this new system. So we'll see you on the flip side of these adverts.
This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
And we are back for our third and final segment. So, Gara, I'm gonna go to you again because you're the only person here. What do you think we're gonna see? Apart from a Minter destroying every fullback in the whole land, what do you think you're gonna see?
I think we can expect João Pedro step up. I think this is a new system for him. I would like to see him take that next step. I think I can see him playing. I think in terms of playing this 4-1-4-1, I think we're going to play with 2 8/10s, whatever you want to call them nowadays, in terms of more advanced midfielders. I think a more Arsenal type of style when they tried going with Havertz and Odegaard in midfield. I think that could be very much Pedro and Enciso in midfield. I think that if I can see those two shine together and kind of link up play and just be an all-out attack team, I think that's where we could kind of shine. And I think that would suit Pedro in terms of he likes to just roam around the pitch. I think that's where he's best.
He does a bit,
he's so technically gifted that he just likes to pick up pockets of space and be a playmaker, but also someone that can make runs into the box and also finish. So I think that's a player that I'm expecting to take the next step.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to just touch on this one quickly because I think he is one of the best young players in the Premier League, and I know that he posted on Instagram like a heartbreak emoji, so I imagine he might miss the first game, maybe a couple games, and he has had some really bad injury issues. But it's Julian Enciso. I think that in this system, the spaces that will open up, because with the wingers holding their width, right? Minter, not so much, because I've seen a lot of Minter making that out to in run, which is devastating in its own right. But if he does make that out to in run, then I'd like to see Enciso coming out on this side, because obviously he has the ability to play on the wing anyway.
Yeah.
But I want to be seeing if it's Welbeck, Evan Ferguson, if it is João Pedro, I want to see him, and this is what I think you will see when he comes back, or even if he plays in the first game. I want to see the centre back of the opposing team picking up your Pedro's, Ferguson's, whatever, hold the width, and then those 2 8s I want to see attacking that space. Sort of like on the underlap in a sense, just in between the lines. I'd love to see that. I think players like Enciso, players like Pedro, like you've just said, I feel like they really could benefit from that. And I think that it's a matter of time before Enciso explodes and then teams start knocking, 80 mil, 100 mil, 120 mil. Like, do you know what I mean?
I see that.
Yeah, 100%. I will go with that. In terms of sort of how you think, so where do you think we could potentially get like exposed in this new formation and style of play?
This is where we were speaking earlier about the high risk, high reward. I think if we do play with these 2 8s, I think, and they are very advanced and they aren't known for their defensive ability in terms of Enciso and João Pedro, I think the problem there would be Matt Swiffer could be exposed. Like, basically, he's just being left alone as a lone CDM, left to protect the defense, which I don't think are his particular specialties. I think he's a special player on the ball in terms of not being pressed or not being kind of unpressable and being composed on the ball. So I think that's where we could, if we do play out all out attack, I think this is where it could be a kind of cricket score eventually in terms of just kind of end to end stuff. And then that's not helped by a defense that is kind of still has question marks around it, especially with Dunk
Yeah.
picking up in age. As much as he's been an absolute servant for the club and an absolute legend for the club. And Van Heck has come on leaps and bounds since he first made an appearance.
JP, mate, we love JP.
Mate, he's a boss, handsome fella as well.
Yeah, he's also got a really underrated range of passing, by the way.
Yeah,
he can spray it like.
He's
100%.
underrated, full stop.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Opposing fans don't really understand how good he actually is, but I think that is where we could see problems in terms of it's just being open. That's my issue.
Yeah, 100%. I think that once you find my issue is that I feel like we could be solid defensively, but having the 2 10s, which obviously we want to see because we want to see goals, is like sort of a blessing and a curse. Because if you were to have, for example, Belieber in there, when you are in that transition going backwards, he can just sort of slot in to that position next to Whiffer. Whiffer's actually not that bad at defending out wide.
Yeah.
But obviously, if he gets dragged out wide, who's there?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's something we could see as well in terms of Belieber. If it's not working, I think that's one adjustment he could easily make.
Yeah.
In terms of bringing in Belieber into the starting lineup, I think that's where an adjustment could be made if it's not working and if we are leaking goals left, right, and centre.
100%. Belieber can also do that. He can do the back and forth as well. He's actually, I would say, he's more of a box to box than he is a. He's more of an 8, if you want to say an 8, because an 8 in this modern game isn't the same as an 8 like Steve Gerrard or Frank Lampard, whatever. But like, I think he can do both, and I'm actually quite surprised that he doesn't look like he's going to start because. You know that I love him.
Yeah,
I think he's class. But obviously, it's all about control, and Matt Swiffer does. He fits the bill a lot better than Belieber does, I think.
Yeah, I think that's where it would suit. It's going to suit Hurzeler's style of play big time. Having Matt Swiffer there, someone that can get the ball deep, is comfortable on the ball, and then will look to play it out. That's what that's what we need, really, and that's what we've got here.
Yeah, definitely. Right, guys. Pardon me. That's disgraceful from me. So, in our next episode, the football season would have started. So, we are going to be either very upset Brighton fans or we're going to be very happy Brighton fans in our next podcast. So, tune in for a match review of our game against Everton on Saturday, but your podcast, you will see it on Monday. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been so good to come back in and be able to come while the boys have been holding it down while I've not been around. Thanks for having me, Gero. Would you like to just quickly just sort of sign off for yourself?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking about Hurzeler. I'm expecting good things. I'm expecting a nice, fun season, and that is one thing us Brighton fans are used to, is seeing a fun season.
Yeah, apart from Christmas onwards last season.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
The whole of April.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I will see you later. I've been Joe Richardson. This has been
Jamie Guerra. See you guys.
We will see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.